There is a question that keeps coming up every time a non-reusable rocket rolls out to the launch pad. Why does this still exist? Not how it works, not what it's for. Why, in an era of reusable boosters, rapid iteration, and private launch companies, does this particular rocket still survive? On the surface, the confusion makes sense. It's expensive, it flies rarely, and compared to modern alternatives, it looks like something from another era. So why has it been cancelled? At the center of Artemis is the Space Launch System, also known as SLS. It's a gigantic work of engineering that is built across the United States, not metaphorically, literally. Its components are manufactured, assembled, tested, and supported in dozens of states across hundreds of contractors, employing tens of thousands of people. And that distribution is not accidental. When a program spreads itself across congressional districts, it creates political gravity. Cancelling it doesn't just end a rocket, it ends jobs, it disrupts local economies, it forces elected officials to explain why their districts lost funding. Absolutely no official wants to do that. And once enough districts are involved, cancellation becomes almost impossible. Government programs are designed to be resilient, not efficient, simply because efficiency is fragile while resilience survives budget cycles. SLS is presented as new, but it isn't. It inherits engines, tooling, manufacturing methods, and workforce pipelines from earlier eras, specifically the space shuttle era. That legacy brings two things with it. First, proven hardware, second, institutional momentum. Cancelling SLS wouldn't just mean starting over. It would mean admitting that decades of investment in factories, training, infrastructure, and expertise are no longer relevant. But institutions are not built to give in easily. Not because they are stubborn, but simply because they are designed to preserve continuity. SLS isn't optimized for speed, it isn't optimized for cost, it isn't optimized for iteration at all. It is simply optimized for predictability. And predictability is what governments value most. Now, to where the conversation initially collapses. Someone brings up a private launch provider like SpaceX or Rocket Lab. Reusable rockets, lower launch costs, rapid development cycles. So why not just switch? Well, because Artemis and SpaceX are solving two different problems. SpaceX answers the question, how do we get to space as cheaply and frequently as possible? Artemis answers a different question. How does a government commit to space flights over decades? Governments are not optimized for agility, they are optimized for control, reliability, and continuity. Private companies can pivot, governments cannot, at least not without consequences. Artemis is slow on purpose, conservative on purpose, expensive on purpose, because its real job isn't innovation, it's commitment. Artemis is tied to long-term contracts, stable funding pipelines, predictable timelines, international agreements that span administrations. Those things are invisible on a launch pad, but they are the reason the program survives changes in leadership, budget, and public attention. From an engineering perspective, Artemis can look outdated. From an institutional perspective, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The quiet truth, Artemis probably won't end with a dramatic cancellation. It will be outpaced. History shows this pattern over and over again. Older systems don't die when something better appears, but they fade when something better becomes unavoidable. Until then, they persist, not because they are competing, but because they are embedded. When Artemis 2 launches, this question will come back louder than ever. Why this rocket? Why this program? Why this cost? And the answer would be found in trust numbers or payload charts. It will be found in how institutions behave. Rockets are built by engineers, space programs are built by systems. And systems don't disappear just because something faster exists. How long this lasts is another question. But now at least, the existence of the rocket makes a little sense. Thanks for staying to the end and click on this video to find out how space becomes history. Stay positive.